Royal Television. We inspire.
Hello there, and thank you for joining me on yet another edition of the program Eye on Nigeria, where we discuss policies, we discuss conflict as well as development issues as they affect Nigeria amongst the Committee of Nations. My name is Femi Tunde Okunwola, your host. Today on the program, we'll discuss reviving a struggling economy. According to recent reports released by the National Bureau of Statistics, the first quarter of the year 2016 saw Nigeria's economy shrink, even as oil output declined. Affected were the manufacturing, the finance, and the real estate industries. Putting this against the backdrop of the ever-increasing unemployment status in the country does seem to have its own fare of challenges. Today, we talk about these challenges even as we chart solutions and a way out of the present situation. But first, a timeout. And welcome back to the program. This is Eye on Nigeria with me, Femi Tunde Okunwola. And today on the program, we're discussing reviving a struggling economy. According to the Central Bank of Nigerian website, the last time we had a contraction in the economy was in the year 2004. Apparently, we have a challenge in our hands right now. I'm not alone. Joining me at this point in time as my guest, I have in the studio right here with me, I have joining me right now, I have Professor Garfa Ejaya, a development economist. It's good to have you. Thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Thank you very much for inviting me into this program.
It's good to have you, sir. Well, let's talk about economies and the very big question everybody seems to be asking right now. How did we get here? Is this a global phenomenon as it is, or is this a Nigerian situation?
I'll say it's both. It's both from the international or from the foreign perspective. You discover that over time, Nigeria has relied so much on oil as a major source of our revenue. And one thing about the politics of oil, you discover that there's one commodity that the producers or the sellers of this product hardly have a say in how much it costs. In other words, the buyer determines the price of this commodity. And who are the buyers? Americans, Britain, Canada, these are the buyers. And because the buyer determines the price, that was why sometimes, way back in the mid-1970s, some countries that are into the production of oil, have to come together and form a cartel. A cartel today referred to as OPEC, that is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Actually, Nigeria became a member around early 1970s, when we actually discovered oil. And what this organization does in most cases is, to play around, the market forces, like the demand and supply thing. When the price of oil is low in the international market, what they do is reduce supply into the market, and that would compel the buyer to actually bargain for a high price. And that, unfortunately, became the issue. But unlike other countries of the world where they diversify the economy, even from the fund realized from oil, we're able to diversify the economy into other sectors, like the real sector, for instance. And some of these countries today are able to survive it and are able to cope with the situation, especially when there is a fall in the price of oil in the international market. So that is from the perspective of the international market or the international economics, because when the buyer reduce the price of oil, it affects so many other things in our country.
Right.
But from domestic side, you you discover that those in government over time, fail to manage some of the successes. The successes of when the price of oil is so high, and there's periods when we experience boom, and before you know it, they allow this boom to burst, and when it bursts, without certain measures, or without actually making use of the proceeds, the excess proceeds from oil to develop the economy. The situation we now experience in Nigeria are some of the situations you will continue to experience.
Wow. Yeah. Well, so that word diversification, which you mentioned, seems to come in one time too many in several conversations. And when we say that, we talk about it as though there were other options we should have explored, and we did not explore it, like agriculture, mining.
No, yeah.
Actually, have solved the
actually,
problem.
it's unfortunate that when did even oil in commercial quantity? When did you get in commercial quantity? When did Nigeria begin to export this product in huge amount or in huge quantity? It all starts, in the mid-1970s, like I said. But before then, Nigeria always relied on the mining and the agricultural sector for its income. In fact, agric, was the mainstay of the economy. So much we have been realized from agriculture. But when oil now came, we neglected these sectors, and it now becomes a thing of emphasis. Diversifying the economy, going back to agriculture, going back to mining, going back to industry. Now, industry that will make use of some of these resources that come from agriculture and from the mining sector. These are the emphasis. Today, because people in government over time neglected these sectors, so we find ourselves in this situation. Like you actually drawn out, in 2004, that was when I would say the crisis. We experienced such crisis then, but we were able to get over it. When the oil price, shoot up to close to about $150 per barrel. So you can imagine. So there were a lot of excess for Nigeria to explore and to make use of for developing these sectors, and for providing some of the critical infrastructure facilities we need that will drive the economy. But what do we have at the end of the day? The PDP government that was there for close to 16 years, squandered all the successes, because it's a huge success, huge one. Because I can imagine, $150 per barrel. At a point in time, it was $140. It went, to even 100, which is still okay. Not until sometimes last year, when it went drastically down, even up to 27. Even up for the visit Buhari took to Saudi Arabia, I don't think we would have been where we are now, because now it's about 46 or 40, between $45 and $46 per barrel. In fact, even not for that visit, I think Nigeria would have been we'll be talking about $15 per barrel, and that will have been more critical.
Well, let's reconstruct or let's deconstruct whatever the case will be right here. How possible is it that a couple of months back, before the present administration stepped in, under President Muhammadu Buhari, how possible is it that we had, according to the IMF and several international reviews, we had a growing economy. We were the biggest economy in Africa, and then all of a sudden you have an economy in recession somewhat. How exactly are these figures, how do these figures come about? Because how possible is it to be here one day you're king of the county, and the next moment you're said to be spiraling down? How much trust can we put in some of these reports?
Actually, some of us,
we wonder about that.
Yeah, some of us are actually skeptical when we see figures of this.
Even as an economist.
Even as economists. You see, there is what we call data mining. So possibility are there that, the government, through maybe government instructions, to just mine this and then use it for the purpose of, public relations or for laundering the image of the government. Because one cannot imagine, how we even become the largest economy in Africa, and within just a couple of months, I would say months, we now crash to the level we find ourselves in. remember, they came up with that idea, when they rebase the Nigerian economy, and because, rebasing usually takes, it's a 10-year thing, and I think the last time, they rebased using the, 2000, I think the year 2000 or so, as the base year, and they were able to come up with some of this figure. And if you look at it, within that period, to the time, they claim Nigeria was the largest economy in Africa. The oil price was not as bad as we have it now. So they were only chucking up those programs. Those figures, and that is on the basis of what comes into the economy. That is the money, without actually looking at the quality that emanates from that money in terms of development. And that's why some of us are actually skeptical, because when you say Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa, then what happened to the quality of life of the people? So, and that's the concern of some of us, especially we that are in development economics, because what matters most is the quality of life. So when they were propagating or saying all these things, some of us did not actually believe, because ordinarily it tells so much that yes, what they were chucking out then are false figure, because within just not more than 6 months, the largest economy in Africa find itself in such terrible situation. Something must be wrong somewhere.
Well, let me comment here. Some also have a different opinion of it. They've spoken about the fact that perhaps the caliber of leadership and the people we have at the helms of affairs right now might not exactly be on top of the game in this aspect. Some people have spoken about a good economic team, both within and outside the cabinet, to move out of this recession, saying, well, otherwise the country will need a bailout from the world powers.
You see, people who talk about economic team definitely are people, to me, are people out there who need job, and they are in the forefront of criticizing the government, even when the crisis, did not emanate, or the government did not create this crisis. But I tell you, the 80% of the crisis, 80% of this problem is because of the high level of corruption we experience. So it's not about having an economic team. You see, there is no way an economy will move. There is no way, no amount of monetary or fiscal policy the government will put in place without tackling corruption and the leakages that come with it. That's the part about it. Because I had the central bank governor, a day or two ago, said the central bank is trying to reverse back to the flexible exchange rate regime, and I think this is just because of the pressure from the IMF that we should devalue. But the fact is, what do you devalue? How do you devalue? And I don't agree with that, because the objective or what comes with devaluation, even the IMF, even in the literature, is that when you devalue, you make your export cheaper and import dearer. And the essence is that now it attracts your export. Now you now attract buyers from outside for your export goods, and with that you are able to get more money, more foreign currency, like more dollars, or more reserves. But the situation where the export itself, the agricultural sector, the manufacturing sector, the mining sector are virtually not functioning well. So what do you export? Where are the industries to even process some of these raw materials to either intermediate good or finished goods with which you now export and make more money? They are not there. So I don't really buy. I don't really buy to that. To that idea of devaluating or going by the fixed exchange rate thing. The regime we are talking about. In fact, if that should happen, we see more inflation. Now they said the inflation rate is about 13%. I bet you, it will get to close to 15 if care is not taken.
All
but
right.
most important, like I said, in several other fora, is that we don't neglect the fiscal component, of our development, like the fiscal policy components of our development.
All right.
And it has already been established that this country is fantastically corrupt, whether people are there like it or not, as stated by the British Prime Minister Cameron, and it's quite true. And you discover that the government over time has been trying to see that yes, they fight corruption and block all the leakages.
Right.
So blocking the leakages, we've seen it with the TSA arrangement. We've seen it with verification of salaries of workers, and even when we had that this verification was done some times ago. The one did this month. They were able to generate close to 50 billion. So meaning that some people out there are still manipulating things, are still manipulating figure. So there's a need now to look at those people and then be penalized for this atrocity, because it's a crime against the nation.
All right, well, thank you very much. Well, if you're listening and watching the program, this is Eye on Nigeria, and my guest, Professor Gafar Ijaya, development economist, is talking to me about why we must have missed it, where we missed it, and after this break, we'll be charting the way forward. Well, the present administration definitely has its hands full. What will it do out of it? When we come back, we're comparing notes with other countries. Greece, for instance, that has had certain economic situations and how they're struggling or getting out of the situations. This is Eye on Nigeria. We'll be back. And welcome back to the program. This is Eye on Nigeria. My name is Femi Tunde Oklala, and we're discussing reviving a struggling economy. Well, Africa's biggest nation, that's both in population and formally in terms of its economy, apparently has got its share of challenge and is struggling at the moment. Well, the present administration has come under a lot of fire, even as most citizens of the country, but within and outside the country, continue to count the days of the president in office and the changes that are being effected. And here's what some people are saying. Some have criticized the government's inexperience in economy matters and the fact that it still went on to form its cabinet without a single old orthodox economist. Talk more of a modern professional economist. Well, I'm joined in the studio, of course, by my guest, Professor Gafar Ijaya, who says, well, he has got his own views about this discussion in the studio. Now, again, let's still talk about the criticism from those on the other side of the fence. To say, let's talk about the pace at which the present administration is making progress. 6 months to pick a cabinet, 2 months to deal with the pattern of the budget, 4 months to look into a missing budget and sign. And some say this is really a slow pace. It might not have been the responsibility or the fault of the present administration in terms of what we have to face, but it is its job to clean up its mess. That's what it promised.
Oh yes, yes. People out there, what I discovered in Nigeria is that we're so much in a hurry. And somebody did ask me, Prof, 1 year we've not seen anything with Buhari. I said in economic analysis, especially from the development economics perspective, we don't look at things from the tangible angles. There are intangible issues. And in fact, I tell you that some of the things that are intangible, things you can't see physically, things that are qualitative in nature, they at times seems to be the silent killer of the economy. Yes, people don't look at it the way at times we look at it. When this man was campaigning, he said it clearly that one, he's going to fight corruption, because if he doesn't, corruption will kill us. Insecurity is a big challenge to Nigeria, especially with the Boko Haram situation we find there. Then the economy. And within the economy, he talks about diversifying the economy and also making job available to our youths. I think those are the two key. And then to some extent, providing or reviving some of our infrastructure facilities. This were, in his campaign. Then when they go into power, I think they discover something different, because the thinking was, when we get there, we hit the ground running. But when they got there, they discovered that there was not even no money to drive the economy, and you need money to do all these things, and so many other mess, and that probably, I would say, was the reason why they have to slow down. And it's good to slow down, because even in policy development or in developing any projects, first you must identify the problem. So, and identifying the problem at times takes a long time to do. In fact, for them to have even identified our problems to this level, I think they've tried.
Because what identification are we talking about?
Yeah, they've identified that, yes, so much money has gone the drain, and that this money were even stolen, and not that the money were used for the purpose meant for. They also discovered that they also identified that some of the infrastructural facilities, the agreements that were being signed by, for instance, China, that even when it was on a counterpart funding arrangement, that 80% of the fund was supposed to be given by China, that only 15% to be provided by Nigeria. That China, even when they were waiting with their own, Nigeria could make it available. So many problems were identified, and I think they're still identifying this problem. In fact, I told somebody, I said, to have a sustainable economy, 2 years is not even enough to identify the enormous challenges we have. And I somebody said, but 1 year we should see signals. I say, yeah, there are signals.
What signals are the signals? You did mention earlier on, rightfully, that Nigerians are very impatient.
Very impatient. Signal from the intangible angles. Corruption, is thing you don't see unless it has been mentioned in terms of how much money has been lost. It's an intangible issue. And that goes with the issue of governance. Because in governance, accountability, transparency, they all come into play. And already we had what the Minister of Finance, the mechanism that we put in place, to see that, yes, leakages are blocked. The TSA thing has been there, not that, it was when Buhari came that, because even in the Constitution it is stated that all revenue of federal government will go to a single purse. But, Jonathan did not implement these things, or implements them partially because he doesn't have the political will. Because that is also very important. To drive an economy, the leadership or the leader must have that political will, to make sure things work. That was what Lincoln Wynne did in Singapore, because he had a political will. Even when he belongs to the socialist school, and even when there was this pressure from US, that because there was a serious divide then of capitalist and socialist, bloc. But he still went on because his political agenda was to make sure that, yes, things get to the people, and he did that. And today, from third world, they are now a first world country, and this is the country that Nigeria, we're almost at par in the 60s. So you need that political will to drive the economy, and I think we have somebody who. But like I said, the intangible issues, like the issue of corruption too. The issue of insecurity, and we would definitely have to give it to the government. With how far they're able to tackle the Boko Haram issue. So
you think, in other words, that these steps majorly are steps in the right direction?
Oh, they are so far, and the budget has been put in, has been approved, awaiting implementation, and already there are 34 thereabout, projects, and they want to accomplish. And for the first time in so many years, you will see targets being high-marked to these projects. So let's Nigerians just wait and let's see when these projects are implemented. And I think that will tackle the economic aspect, because it is the economic aspect people are really particular about. And with these 34 items or projects, the possibility are there that, yes, at least when they begin to implement it, the economy will begin to take shape. But from the intangible angle, I think Buhari, the government has done well. I won't give them 60%, but close to that.
What percentage would you give?
I say between 55 to 60%.
And is that fair enough?
Because it is still it is in progress. The corruption thing is still in progress. They're still working on it. They're still fighting corruption. Maybe by 29, as he said, when he begin to give, when he give us those figures, and also probably mention the name of those who stole from the government, we begin to see serious measures.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Fan. Even as we wrap up the show, let's talk about the way out of this present situation. We've had administration after administration coming to talk about diversifying. So, where do we turn to? Mining again, agriculture, manufacturing. Way out. So what's getting out of this present scenario?
Yeah, I think to get out of it, I think the government they put in place, measures from the budget provisions. We'll be able to see what they do. But I think implementation is what matters. But I think some of us there feel, yes, for the first time, I think we have somebody who has the political will to drive the economy, to implement this to implement this budget. So let's wait and see how far they. And I want to employ Nigerians to go and check the details of the budget with the target attached to them, and then the year probably, this budget will be accomplished.
Right.
And with that, you can monitor and do and criticize the government or assess the government at the end of the day if those things are not accomplished.
Well, again, the big question remains how long do Nigerians have to wait? Before the break, we were talking about countries such as Greece, where you had a mess on ground.
Nigerians wait for 16 years for this damage. So if they have to wait for 16 years for the repair, I don't think...
Do you think that's fair enough?
No, you see, because I'm a diploma in economics, it's fair. If Nigerians can wait for 16 years to experience the damage, so let them wait for another 16 years to see it repaired.
And so what criteria and what yardsticks are we supposed to use in measuring development? When we have a statement such as, at the end of this period, so thing will be on the ground.
I think Nigerians, I want to employ the government to also, include, not the GDP, because you use the GDP so many times, and the money accrued, as a measure of development. I think they now should move away from that, or should, as a complement to that, look at some of the indicators that determine our quality of life,
Which again is what we're saying.
So many. Access to water, access to health, power, infrastructure facilities.
But those are the same factors that Nigerians seem to be complaining about at the moment, and these are the same yardsticks that they seem to be using and grading.
Look around.
And
for 16 years, the PDP was there. How much of our health system, even when they are sick, you know where they go. To tell you how terrible these people are.
Well, so, again, these are changing times, Professor, and like you rightfully said, Nigerians made a decision to get someone else in power in recent times. Other civilizations and other democracies, such as Greece, seem to have done that. Well, recently, the president had to fight again to retain his position, to lead that particular country. And coming back home to Nigeria, well, the populist saying on the one side of the divide seems to be, well, if nothing can be done about it, well, we might need to seek for help elsewhere. And so the big question, for how long do we have to wait? And you just said for as long as it takes.
For how long does it take? For sustainable development purposes. You see, we have to... when you don't put mechanism for sustaining your development, you get back to this situation. And I want our listeners or viewers out there to know that, the issue of recession or whatever it is that we find ourselves in, is an occurring thing. It's bound to happen. So getting out of it is what we should begin to think about now. But let me tell you one thing: getting out of it, depends on the political will to implement the measure. The measures have always been there. Before I even begin to study economics in my secondary school, when they said, what are the problems of agriculture? They say lack of finance, lack of capital, lack of this. And it has been lack of all this up to date. But why up till now we still have those, as challenges to our development? Because over time, we don't have the leadership that has the political will to change those things. So we wish, maybe this government will have that political will to do things differently.
Right. And we did mention on our final note, even as we wrap up the show, we did mention areas that we should be focusing on. Of course, the present administration has spoken about focusing on agriculture for one, and also manufacturing, amongst some other angles. Right direction, or are there some other places?
No, we don't have an option now, because we just have to diversify our economy. We have to go to other sectors, because the oil sector has, it's a big disappointment, has disappointed us. I tell you, if not for the visit Buhari took to Saudi Arabia, in fact, we should be talking about $15 per barrel now. That's the part about it.
Wow.
We should be talking about 15, because that was the projection we made. Even in my department, we took a study and said, okay, if things should go this way, before the end of the year, where are we going to find ourselves with regard to the price of oil in the international market? We came up with, a proposition of, 15, with an assumption or something, or an estimate of, $15 per barrel. But the visit seems to bail us out, because now we're talking about 46 or thereabout. And in fact, it should have gone beyond that now, if not for the crisis between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And the invitation, the sanction that was lifted on Iran. If Iran is still under sanction and there's no crisis between Saudi Arabia, in fact, the oil price would have shoot up to close to $80 per barrel now.
Again, so much to talk about right now, and time's the only thing we don't have. It's an ongoing process, the Nigerian economy and the struggle to get it out of its present dilemma and situation. A step in the right direction, taking a look at the scorecard and the present leadership, well, how well are they doing? Well, again, there is, and they seems to be a big question mark right there, even as we hope for a better tomorrow. Diversifying the economy, there is no choice right now. A little too late, yes, but better late than never. It is what we must do right now. A big thank you to my guest, Professor Garfai. Thank you so much for giving us your time on the show today.
Thanks so much.
Well, that's the size of the show today. Well, do tune in for another edition that will be coming up on Eye on Nigeria. My name is Femi Tunde Okunlola. Bye for now.